Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My brothers and sisters, what's the topic? The topic is actually the coronavirus. It has actually gone from bad to worse, and to be very honest with you, I want to tell you what I am doing so that you can know what I have done. Number one, I felt a slight scratch in my throat, and I decided not to go to Salatul Jumu'ah. I was supposed to be the Imam. I was supposed to lead the prayer, and I chose not to go to Salatul Jumu'ah because I don't want to put others at risk from me, and I don't want to be at risk from others. So that was number one. And like I told you, I do have a slight scratch in my throat. I'm still dealing with it, alhamdulillah. I had traveled, and when I came back from my journey from Australia, which was already a week back, almost, just under a week, I think it's been 6 days, I stayed away from my loved ones simply because I didn't want to put their lives at risk. So what I did is I did not greet my mom or dad who are in their 80s. I stayed away from them. I just, from a distance, I told them, look, I'm not going to come close to you. And there's no shaking of hands, no hugs. The older generation find it very difficult to understand why you're doing what you're doing. But I didn't. After that, I have not been to the masjid. I must tell you that I have not been to the masjid. And I practice what I preach. I've just learned that the situation is across the globe is far worse. Notice my tajweed. There is a mad. The mad lazim has sitta harakat, meaning 6 letters. It is far worse than we initially thought it was. I've witnessed many countries, and it's just spiraling, and people are not taking it seriously. So I'd like to be a person who goes down in history from among the Muslims, who very strongly told the Muslimin not to go to the masjid. I'm not talking about closing or not closing the masjid, because I've already said my opinion in that regard. I believe that it's not an issue of closing. It's just suspending the congregational prayers within the masjid for a while, and those congregational prayers can continue in the house, in the home. I have been home. I have come out only for necessity. That's what I believe. I haven't come out of my motor vehicle when I've been places. And now I'm in my home, I'm in my yard, and that's it. I have, you can call it what you want, self-quarantine. I'm in a country where the first case was only discovered yesterday, was confirmed yesterday, but I believe that there are so many people with the symptoms. And I do think that, we're going to lose a lot of a generation. Perhaps many of our loved ones. May Allah make it easy for us. It's very difficult for me to say this. I think we're going to lose a lot of our loved ones before Ramadan. I have a feeling the whole world is going to change completely, totally. We're going to have to embrace this whole new way of looking at things. I think a lot of the scholars who are not being hard enough are making a big mistake. I think so. I'd like to go down on record for that, because we'll only know what I'm saying in about 4 weeks from now. I think the burial committees of the Muslims need to start preparing very, very drastically for hundreds of people, and I think we're going to need to do that. I'm giving you my thoughts based on sound knowledge. When I say sound knowledge, I mean I've been reading very, very much. I've had sleepless nights reading, checking, verifying, speaking to some of my friends who have coronavirus, COVID-19. I'm speaking to some of them. I'm not scaring you. I think the older generation who really are desperate to go to the mosques are the first ones who should be fulfilling their prayers at home. They are high risk. I think keep your children at home. Don't go to congregational prayers. Whether the masjid is open or not is a separate point. I don't want to argue with those scholars, but I'd like them to know my opinion, because I think they will really consider what I've said, you know, within the books of history in a short space of time. I also think that this is a very, very serious thing, and it's no use to say if you have symptoms. I think I'm finding that to be quite foolish. I'm finding that to be quite foolish, because there are no symptoms. There are no symptoms. The symptoms come about when it's too late. Remember this. The symptoms come about when it's too late. I want to tell you, my brothers and sisters, stay at home. Don't go out without necessity. Wash your hands often. Put on your mask if you have one when you're going out. Put on your, you know, something that covers your eyes. It actually enters through the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. I may be affected. I have a very, very slight doubt. But you know what? I want to make you guys laugh. When, like, I have a problem. What's the problem? If you say don't touch your face, it starts itching here. It starts itching down there. I feel like scratching. My nose starts itching. I don't know if it happens to you guys. If I say don't touch your face, not at all, you become more conscious of it. If I were to tell you that one of the first signs is a slight scratch in your throat, a little bit of dryness and itchiness perhaps, a slight fever, very light, subhanallah, I must tell you that, you know what, if I were to say that, you'll start becoming more conscious. I became more conscious of my throat when one of my friends who's now really suffering with this is actually, you know, he spoke to me. I've been speaking to a few of the guys. One of them was telling me, Mufti, please take this seriously. Please, you know, understand, you have to say this to the whole world. Tell them, take it seriously, you know, take off work, forget about the financial loss. We've all lost financially. There's a lot. You're going to have to be on your self-imposed little lockdown and little isolation. I'm talking here obviously about you know, the countries that have not yet taken it seriously. Okay, I feel very sorry for us within some of the African and third world countries, because when I watch Italy and when I watch America and the other advanced countries, and I look at how even in the UK, and apparently the UK is very, very serious, I sit and think these are first world countries who are saying we cannot cope. I really don't want to see 2-3 weeks from now when the third world countries forget about not being able to cope, but it's going to be worse than we can imagine. Like I said, the burial committees, please start making arrangements for many more deaths than you actually think. And I'm not being a prophet of doom, I'm just letting you guys know. What I found helps is, and this from talking to people, from reading and talking to people who are affected, who are confirmed cases, where they're saying, you know what, salt water, hot salt water gargles, because obviously it starts off at the throat. After that, you see the other symptoms. Then the fever comes up. You start getting a tightening of the chest. And you start, if I were to ask you how many of you have these symptoms, you start getting a fever, a lot would have the symptoms. I thought, let me just speak to you guys. Somebody saying, be careful to me. I'm asking you guys to be careful. Really, take it seriously. Your older people, just impose a curfew on them. Forget about what they say. You know, sitting and watching Wuhan and how in some parts of China, initially they had to force the guys off and make sure that they told them, listen, you're not moving. And that's when it helped. So I just take it seriously. This does not negate our trust in Allah. I trust in Allah completely. I believe in Allah, and I know when we're going to die, even if it's next week. May Allah grant us shahada and make us from those who get Jannatul Firdaus. So basically, you know, in Islam, there's nothing hard and fast to say that even when life is at stake, you have to keep on doing something because you feel it's never happened in my life. You know, people are saying, how can we suspend the prayers in the masjid? We're not suspending prayers. We're only suspending, or we're only calling for the suspension, temporary suspension for this period of time,